Hey, welcome to another edition of the Living Room Online Literary Series coming to you live from Detroit, Michigan. We have a great reading lined up today. I'm really excited about it because these are people that have been friends of mine for almost 40 years, although they all look way younger than me. And you'll see what I mean when you start seeing them. But we met many years ago. I started doing things on a, well, I would say more national level, and it was Chicago, because my friend Carl, who Carlos and Cindy know, Sharon probably knows too. He moved there to go to Columbia College, and once he got there, I asked him. I said, "Well, look around for readings." Now, back in '80. There wasn't a lot of reading stuff going on anywhere in Detroit or Chicago per se. And so he looked around and he found a flyer, because he worked out for Kerr out in Lincoln Park. I think that's where Charlie used to live. And he found a thing that said open mic at the bookstall. So we took the train out there and did it. And while I was there that night, Mark Smith was in the audience, and there wasn't many people there, but I did some performance stuff. And Mark jumped up afterwards and gave me his card and said, I'm thinking about starting this kind of different thing at a place called Butchie's Get Me High Lounge. And I thought, okay. And he said, well, I'd like you to be a feature. Now, I don't know if you guys all remember it, but when it first started, the biggest part of it would have probably been the open mic, the feature, and then the slam. That was the first time. It seemed like everybody split before the slam started that first time. Then when we went back a year later, we could hardly get in there, and nobody would shut up when you were reading. So they wanted just the slam part of it. So anyway, on that first night, Sharon walked in, to this Butchie's, which I guess is a very chic neighborhood now. Back then, it was suspect. We had to be armed to go to Butchie's. So I met her there. And then a couple of years later, Carlos was and Cynthia were doing a program at the Axe Street Arena, I believe it was. And he invited me. He said, "Yeah, come on over." And we've all been friends ever since. So, and there's some other folks from Chicago too that were there. I haven't kept up with all of them or a lot of them. Charlie was there for a minute. We went up to Lincoln Park and Oak Park. We have an Oak Park here too. So anyway, that's the quick story, and we're going to hear from the readers. It will be Cynthia Gallaher, followed by Carlos Cumpian, followed by Sharon Mesmer, and then I'll read a couple of poems when we finish up here. If you have questions and comments, go ahead and place them on Facebook, because people will be able to see those as we go along. So first up, Cynthia Gallaher, Chicago-based poet and visual artist, is the author of 4 poetry collections, many with themes, including Epicurean Ecstasy, more poems about food, drinks, herbs, and spices, and 3 cookbooks, including Drenched. Her nonfiction memoir, Creativity Guide, which I have a copy of, Frugal Poet's Guide to Life, How to Live a Poetic Life, even if you aren't a poet. I think that's the title, even if you aren't a poet, added on. It won a National Indie Excellence Award. And her Facebook, or not Facebook, but her website is listed on the Facebook invite. Please welcome, I'm so excited to have you guys here and just to see you all again. Please welcome Cynthia Gallaher.
Thank you so much, ML. As always, it's great to see you and be with you. And I appreciate this reunion and be with Sharon Mesmer again. And of course, Carlos and I are reading from the same locale. We are husband and wife. Um, I'm going to be reading some new poems, a few that have not been published, a few that have been. One has recently been published in Detroit in the Pulse Beat journal, which is dedicated to kind of musical poetry. And this may not be super musical, but it is about Elvis. And I was tasked in one of my former jobs to hire an Elvis impersonator. And this is what this poem is about. It's called Booking a Booth Act for the 55th Annual Employee Benefits Conference in Orlando. In the battle for trade show Elvis impersonator gigs, the Tampa Bay Elvis warned against hiring Orlando Elvises, who all tend to be quite heavy, unless you like the Elvis of latter years. My price is reasonable, and I'll throw in transportation from Florida's west coast to east. I can play acoustic so as not to draw attention to myself, but more to your nurse line and health advocacy services. I'll behave myself, smile and chat with squares and suits who visit booth 1002, not just the chickadees who wander by and want to stroke my sequins. Your paper banner announces a hunka savings by lowering emergency room visits through the sultry voice of an RN, urging callers to lie down and take their temperatures after drinking a glass of cold water, as well as keep your employees from using up your HR staff's hourly time with their real and imagined woes. Well, just look around the booth. Elvis isn't dead, and you won't be either if you'll only pick up the phone. And then this one is this is a boomer poem for sure. It's in a letter form. It's to a friend who died as a teenager. So it's kind of like a letter that can't be delivered. And that's something that I used to teach in my workshops. I'd have my students do that, whether in poetic form or letter form. So this is to Peggy in honor of Peggy, who died as a teenager. Hey, Peg, remember the Dick Tracy two-way wrist radio from the comics? We have one now, but we hold it in our hands and call it a cell phone. They never did come up with smell-o-vision. Remember how we wore side-buttoned Ben Casey and ruffled Elizabeth Taylor blouses? Yeah. No one today knows old Ben Casey from Dr. Strangelove. And all we have left of Elizabeth Taylor are half-used bottles of her passion perfume. We still have chalk, hammers, nails, and sidewalks. Nearly everything else has changed. Tomatoes taste really different, and they switched banana species on us due to a plague. You'd like that they don't have nearly as many little brown seeds inside, but taste kind of grainy, somewhat like the tomatoes. I finally had the guts to pierce my own ears a few months after you died. No ice. Now the holes are so large you could park your dad's old truck, at least in the left one. We always took so much effort to sneak record albums into our house that our parents wouldn't approve of. Now kids buy songs one at a time, as if from a gumball machine, pulled from thin air. At least we had a flip side, the B side on 45s. It's hard to explain the technology, and I'm sure it's difficult for you to tell me what it's been like in Deadsville all these years. Believe me, there are days, weeks, even years when it's Nowheresville here among the living, especially when a Republican is in office. Remember how you were so worried your dad would catch you making out with Mike D'Alessandro in your basement? Now, being long married, my husband and I still get pangs of terror, but it's when we hear our son's key in the front door while we're in flagrante delicto upstairs. I think of you more often than just your birthday or Halloween. Your dad is still alive and tells me to this day he wishes it would have been him instead of you. He has no grandkids. Your brother, Buddy, finally came out when Madonna had that hit song Vogue, as we had an inkling, right, girlfriend? Buddy said he felt like both Dietrich and DiMaggio. The Vogue that served as his inspiration, somewhat like the magazine we used to read, but with more rouge and fishnets, along with stubble in the bathroom sink. Let's see, I'm gonna do another, I know ML, you're really into music with your band and everything. And so I'm gonna do another music poem. I went to London when I was 23 years old, and I always hoped to run into Pete Townsend from The Who. For some reason, I thought that I would see him. Well, it turns out, not Pete Townsend, but I was waiting for John Entwistle in a piano store. I had met Paul McCartney's piano tuner in London. And so this is about waiting for John Entwistle. During Wings Over America, their piano tuner stayed in London to write his own music. We met in a pub where a cute little dog ran between our tables. He invited me to the piano shop where he also worked, making commissions selling spinets and grands. Someone from Procol Harum was just in here, said a little old shop lady as we entered, who the piano tuner lovingly introduced me to as a proper English lady, who surely looked the part, a whiter shade of pale. At the piano, we waited for his appointment to arrive. John Entwistle from The Who. Isn't he the bass player, I asked? Well, he plays guitar, but he would rather compose on a piano, he answered. Like Cousin Kevin on the Tommy album? We waited and stroked the keys in front of us. We waited, and the piano tuner played new riffs, then segued into Debussy. You are Claire de Lune personified, he said. I can hear, but I'm also not blind. I played the short piece of Rachmaninoff I knew. It was either that or chopsticks. We waited and each made up little tunes. I'm not sure how much time had passed. John Entwistle still hadn't shown. It reminded me of those hot summer days in our cool basement when girlfriends and I had nothing to do but sit side by side, poking out silly chords, call and response on our old piano player piano, or sing lame polka songs and Tin Pan Alley favorites from paper piano rolls. One after another, now here in London, we waited and waited, nowhere else to go but wait, to dabble and create, getting to know each other and wasting time, tickling keys, while someone else was late. And he never did show up. But that was fun. I think maybe, let's see. I think I'll read one more poem because time goes by fast when you're reading poetry. Lately, I've been able to go back to swimming. I haven't been at the pool for more than 2 years. And I went to our local swimming pool here. I used to go kind of far away, and then our local swimming pool is beautiful. It's crystal clear. And when I was swimming one day, I saw a guy with a snorkel swimming, and he never raised his head above water. And I thought, that's fantastic, because people who know about the freestyle, when you get a lot of water sometimes in your mouth and your nose, and it interrupts your momentum. So I thought, I'm going to do the same thing and get the snorkel. I think it's a great idea. So this is about my Italian white and black Perot snorkel. Happy to have found this Italian crafted snorkel in torn plastic packaging on the bottom shelf of the sporting goods store. Sigh of relief. The last one askew, but perfect in white and black. When worn, I might be mistaken for a Star Wars stormtrooper or a medieval Poirot. A clownish giggle. Not in outer space or commedia dell'arte, but in the vast blue local proscenium of the public swimming pool. An airy space, stage left, stage right. Semi-submerged, supercharged with Lamborghini vibes, the snorkel, a cannonoli on steroids, the ancient Romans with reed breathing tubes would surely envy. I imbibe atmosphere from 2 feet above my head and explore 7-foot depths as if on a glass-bottom boat, participant prone in this crisp, clean pool, a body hugging 78 degrees. My mouthpiece fits snugly. To breathe freely with no thoughts used any longer for freestyle rhythmic breaths, no pause in my horizontal journey to move my gaze above the azure plain. Inhale, exhale. Afloat on the world's softest natural bed, there are no limits to my travels except 2 black lines astride a light blue lane. Exhale, inhale. A body's length apart, with only occasional glaze against a neighbor's wayward hand or foot beside me, an accidental aquatic high five. Surprises don't break the momentum. Swim strokes churn a watercolor canvas that never dries. My body a paintbrush, drawing light and shadow from the sun above. A big inhale. Blue and white mix underwater into a tempeh network. A mycelium running, sorry about that, weaving every drop together, especially when my mask fogs. A big exhale. Blue of spring, white of winter, a brilliant wash of summer, a meditative place without season, a blend and spin into a swimming forgetfulness. Breathe, but don't think. 600,000 gallons of bliss, despite some achy joints. I say a prayer that others might feel the buoyancy these waters bring. Oxygen inside my lungs, my cells. How it snaps away the monkey mind, ascends my earthbound body as long as I keep my head below, part of this alternate state. I don't know H2Os from O2s anymore. Of scaly, snaky patterns across pool's bottom, this portal, a living entity 3 blocks from home, a million miles away, a cinemascopic silent world I can enter over and over. Inhale and exhale, exhale and inhale. Via my passport, this Italian white and black Lamborghini Perot Stormtrooper Aqualung, anytime I wish, as long as the pool schedule stamped adult swim. A whistle blows. Thank you, guys.
Wow. That's great. Cindy, thank you, man. I'm sorry about the feedback. I guess it was feedback that was happening. So Cynthia Gallaher, you don't have that frugal poet book like laying by the computer, do you? I just wanted to make sure people know about it because it is a cool book.
Yeah, I can flash it.
Yeah, flash it.
It's my nonfiction,
It's
memoir
pretty
guide,
cool and
like
it's pretty
creativity
helpful
guide.
for poets. It's called The Frugal Poet's Guide to Life: How to Live a Poetic Life, even if you aren't a poet. And she's won an award for it.
So
there it is.
This is it, yeah, and it's my bestseller, so it's sold better than any of my poetry.
Oh, great!
That's the thing when you get into nonfiction,
That's always going to be the case.
Yeah. And you did say I had these chapbooks or cookbooks, but they're chapbooks.
Yeah, you also do a lot of chapbooks. I mean, Carlos hasn't done squat, but
He has. His latest. Well, before this latest book was a chapbook.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he'll tell you more about that.
Good.
His turn.
Well,
Turn?
let me introduce him.
Okay.
Hopefully he's still around. He's not out
He's right here
in the alley mixing up the medicine. Carlos Cumpian, born and raised in Texas and now lives in Chicago. He is the author of the poetry collections Coyote Sun, 1990, Armadillo Charm, 1996, very cool books, and 14 Abrillos 2010, as well as a children's book. Yeah, I have that. I love that too. Children's book. One he did on Cesar Chavez for sure. You may have done more. And then Latino poetry. Cool. He's essentially the archivist for a lot of this poetry. His poems have appeared in many anthologies, including Emergency Tacos, which I still have a couple copies of. I might sell them on eBay. 7 Poets con Pincante, with a book in their hands, Chicano readers and readership across the century. And he's trying to stump me with all these names, but Texas Mexican literature, Dream of the Word, the Tia Chucha Press, which started in Chicago. I think Rodriguez started, Luis, is that who started it? Yeah. And he also edits and has for many years the Marcho Abrazo Press. And he was teaching. Are you back? You're not back teaching high school. No, he was a high school teacher for a minute in Chicago. And he is an icon on the literary scene there. Please welcome Carlos Cumpian.
Hey, muy buenas tardes todos. ¿Cómo ha estado? Ya está. Okay. Okay. Mira, it's a big gathering today of all our voices from decades ago coming back together to sit together to hear from Sharon, to hear from ML, Cynthia reading new material. She's always writing. She is one prolific writer, I have to tell you. So anyway, you can see that in her work. What I have for you, I'm going to be drawing out from my brand new, just released, I have it all marked up. This is called Human Cicada. And it's from Prickly Pear Press out of Santa Fe, Nuevo Mexico, New Mexico. And they took a chance on me and they came out with this book, and I'm happy to say it's been too long. It would have come out a few years ago, but something called COVID showed up. Now the book is divided into 3 sections. Quickly, I will tell you. The first part is called Travelers Without Maps. The second part is called Almost Invisible Talents. And the third part is called Heroics and Misery Cults, or Mystery Cults, whatever strokes your head. The first part I'm going to be reading from is the Travelers Without Maps. I'm going to give you 2 poems from that, 2 from the other sections, and so we'll call it a day. Here we go. The first one, as you can see, I'm wearing my Sasquatch shirt, my crypto species shirt. Do I believe in it? Oh yeah, sure. You'd be surprised the things I've heard. But this one, I have to say, every age and culture has had its mythical, creatures that we've heard about. In the Mexican world, they have the crying woman, La Llorona, who greets and scares kids at the riverbank, and the kids go running away from that back to mom and pop and the safety away from the dark waters of the river. And in the 21st century, here in North America and even Central America, we have the crypto species that we've now heard of, and maybe you know about this escapee, who may actually be an alien's pet. And let me give you, he's our first traveler without a map, and this is Chupacabra Furlough. Wake up, loco! It's just after 6 in the morning, and my Tejano connections yesterday sent me some impeccable proof from the lower Rio Grande Valley. Attaches a plethora of film footage. It's what we've been waiting for, because experts have found no image manipulation of this elusive, fast-footed creature now captured on a sheriff's dashboard camera. Deputies Zavala and Dulce Mora of Falfurias offered indispensable first-hand testimonies and even a notarized statement from the poet-priest Raul Niño from San Benito. I think we're beginning to agree that este chiquitito chupacabra is no more mito que you or me. It's no fable, neither unicorn or minotaur. It's not some hydra-headed Argus from days of yore. This ain't no Monterrey mountaintop flying bruja causing the piss cop rookie to camera cry for television's primer impacto, We know this critter's etymology comes straight from Spanish with Latin roots. For to suck is chupar and cabra is goat. Pero question numero uno is where in the hell did this diablito come from? Where and did it first appear? Was it on the Caribe island of Borinquen, or do you still say Puerto Rico? Did we forget its initial reports, how the creature just dashed around Old Richport with the speed of a swiftly pitched baseball until one night when the people on an old farmer Jibaro's farm stopped still in their tracks to witness this yet unclassified beast tapping a liquid meal out of a skinny goat's neck? It was as some strange hurricane flung this crypto species, this critter, right out of the deepest parts of Africa. With no documentation, always on furlough from the annals of discovery, this genetic cul-de-sac just appeared all weird dog and Komodo dragon-like, with bristles and quarry-ripping claws, red-eyed and ready to roam. Coño, scary perro. The kids, some barrio kids said the next day when they saw its pictures in San Juan's news. Pero cálmate, relax, gente. It's okay here in Humboldt Park, but you better watch out, Hyde Park, because that sucker wouldn't find enough blood to live on after Chicago's mosquitoes do their picnicking in July. All right, Chupacabra furlough. All right, I had a friend that said, I was gonna name my book that, and then he said, "Don't, that's a terrible name." And I thought, okay, well, what do you know about chupacabras? Okay, here's the second poem. I have not traveled much in this world. I have gone to Mexico, I've gone to Canada, and I've been across some places in the US. And I'm really a Midwest, Great Lakes guy and Southwest guy, and that's about it. I've visited California briefly in the year 2000. I've never been to New York City. I hear bad people live there, and only the most evil people really want to make a career there. And I just stay away from that place. So anyway, but I actually have been to New York State, upper state. I went up to, Chautauqua. But this is called November Travels. And this was the result of having gone to a place where the people are actually giants. It's a country called Iceland. And we went to Iceland. And we came back, and on the way back, I was in trance, and I was wearing a mask. This is 50 days before COVID, and my wife turned to me and said, "What's up? What's going on?" And I said, she said, "Is everything okay?" And I said, "No." She said, "What?" I said, "What's happening?" "It's not going to be, well, let me read you the poem. As the plains cone bottom burst through white tigers and dragon-shaped clouds, for 5 hours that had surrounded us, I wanted feet back on that Icelandic beach or in the blue lagoon again. Once on the ground just above us, not one, but two suns. Just a tongue in the sky made of rain and curiosity formed over the shores of cold Lake Michigan. We traveled far, and it offered me a chance to become a stoic meteorologist. With what truth I saw in trance, after you asked what was coming. I gestured with hands rolling over and over. Confusion, everything upside down, I said. Eventually, the thorns of missed opportunities will lead from the soles of our feet, while the sun's golden pollen arrowhead will rise again at the edge of our inland sea, behind eyelashes that blink on the brink after months of masks. All right, thank you. So that's Travelers Without Maps. There are some other ones. What maybe I have a third one for you, but let's get over to the people we know as the almost invisible talents. We all know people who are terrifically talented, and are they covered in the media? Maybe not, right? We just know all these really famous people. And I'm going to tell you right now, I know someone who plays electronic music, and I don't mean the German Kraftwerk. I mean something more modern than that. You know, us old guys. Yeah, Kraftwerk. I know what you're talking about. Yeah. No, this is more modern stuff. Some of us are so old, we remember Lothar and the Hand People. Hell, come on now. But there's ML. Yeah, me, buddy. And here we go. So I dedicate this to my son, who's a composer. It's called Calm Panic. You offer us sonic bread, composed of well-needed beats, turn spirals out of triangles. Electronic audio dominance soars, calls up boisterous ghosts set to dancing. Muscle memories bring fingertip calluses where talent rules. Releases of roaring Niagara Falls, where we drown in your opus sound playground. Eyes on you as you levitate the room. Take us for that wild ride down Bryn Mawr, revealing a youthful grace across your face. Smiles spring from the still Coleman going bald Q-tip heads which bob to your rhythmic rolling. All drunk on your note symmetry, winged dreams, sailing across the ceiling. No one can see the walls anymore. Prisoners to your cinematic hailstorm, volcanic eruption, snowstorm, wind shear, tornadoes blowing. Decibels of delight in the fresh breeze bliss that beckons amid fading summer light. Asymmetrical danger leaps out at us like from a deep shadowy favela. On the outside, windshields crack at the high note, piercing drum percussion without warning, all soar above eagles and satellites after your inner keyboard pilot nods permission for liftoff in savage illumination. All right, so that's that. I wish you could hear the music, boy. Anyway, so I'm going to do the section now, going over to heroics in misery cults. And one of the oldest cults, I think, that has preoccupied civilized people is what? It's that's practice of deliberately lifting weights, performing weight-bearing exercises that was once maybe just the exclusive domain of the testosterone-filled male, that now I know lots of women slapping them weights around. But anyway, so this cult of weightlifting is what inspired my poem, and it's called "I Do My Working Out at a Grunge Gym." Yeah, I do it where there's no air conditioning, just 7 ceiling fans, and only 5 ever spin. There's no showers. You better do that before you come in. And if you need to wash your hands, there's a mechanic slop sink located inside a closet next to 8 tiny lockers, big as shoe boxes, which accommodate next to nothing. There's free parking across a busy street where gangsters keep watch on you from their apartments. So maybe your car might lose a tire, get towed if you decide to get back late. There's steady, sweating gals and guys stud smash large free weights, doing it before those 4 picture windows with burning fluorescents. But no gawkers ever stop to smear the glass for fear of the brutes inside. There's no drinking water. You should have brought your own H2O. And ignore that wall clock. It's broken like the handle above the toilet hole. The nice thing about the place is that no one acknowledges you when you enter, unless you think grunts count. Everyone's too busy doing sit-ups with 50-pound kettlebells. And if you're ever bothered by too much moisture in your area, the manager will offer you some Windex and a rag. There are some nights, the air is an assortment of international male jock funk, Africans straight out of Ghana, Mexicans from towns missing men, Filipinos from 100 listless islands, third-gen Chicagoans, newly tattooed farm boys, Highlanders from Poland and Ukraine. The desk guy's name is Dakota. I wondered if he was native. Sort of looks it. He's got that thick, dark, straight hair and almond-tipped eyes. He says Japanese and Irish, and he speaks better than a public radio reporter. Occasionally, he'll stop and write an encouraging message in chalk on the wall. And as he does, his girlfriend is doing 200-pound deadlifts. And he'll write, "Don't be disappointed with the results you got. Just think of the work you didn't do today. And would you stop looking at my girlfriend, fool?" That's it. All right. So I do my working out at a grunge gym. All right. Here is my last piece, and it's called "Your Racing Neighbors." Now, some of you have never had an encounter with the Ku Klux Klan. I was 12 years old. I was 11 years old when I encountered the Ku Klux Klan. Some of you say you've seen them on the streets of Detroit. Some of you have seen them on the streets of New York. But I actually got that. I'll tell you the poem. Here's the poem. So the worst cult, this is from the third section. The worst cult, in my opinion, is the cult of idolatry. And I'm going to tell you, in this world, that translates into racism. When you worship your own skin and your own physical attributes, that's a form of idolatry, okay? So racism is idolatry, and the Klan are some of the greatest members of that form of that cult. Your racing neighbors. Who was the fastest? It was a straight bet between me and my 12-year-old neighbor, Jesse, and 10-year-old me. Well, as I tied up my shoes, I said, okay, Jesse Contreras, I'm ready. Win or lose, I was going to still be stuck with my sister's little Lotta or Donald Duck comic collection, while he bragged he had stacks of Fantastic Four and Batman. At go, my 5'3" frame dashed toward his house at the end of the block, and I wished I had Mercury's sandals on to quickly lift my feet off the sidewalk. Jess crossed at the edge of a white family's well-manicured fetish in crabgrass. I followed closely and touched their spongy lawn too, crushing it under my dirty white socks and worn Keds. Mr. Neighbor and Sons watched our peep squeak intrusion in front of their Texas ranch home, which aroused them from their summer lethargy, moved to action like some Wizard of Oz monkeys, making whoops and screams. Get off our lawns, you dirty greaser beaners. In reply, we middle finger saluted them and kept running. I wondered if I should have yelled back, shut up, you blonde baloney bastards. And then Jesse yells, La tuya! And I doubt those clowns had any idea what that meant. But there was no way now we were going to sit in his place and drink Cokes and pour over comics, because a moment later, there was a roar. It was a red engine racing, doing peel outs on his lawn, laughing and launching chunks of the green and faded browns. And the driver shouted, wetback, see what you get? Alarmed, I asked Jesse, where's your parents? He replied, it's 3:30. They don't get back to 6. Bam, bam, bam. At the door were two goons pounding, and one was at the back at the kitchen with a baseball bat. Jesse then goes to the hall closet, takes out that 12 gauge, checks for shells, opens the side window, pointed at the pair, still pounding, and yells, go away. Both turn simultaneously, looking and saying, shotgun, shotgun, which the bastard in the back must have heard, because he cut and run back to the truck with 3 honks and yelled his threats. They were gone. Y'all gonna die because we are from the Knights of the KKK. I think that was the first time I had ever heard of them. So Catholic schoolboy style, I recited the Lord's Prayer and just relieved they had left, closing with an amen and not today, Satan, not today. And Jesse said, oh yes, Vato, can you believe it, man? I was just gonna ask them if I could go over and cut their grass for a few bucks. That's that. Thank you, ladies and gentle peoples. All right.
So
yeah,
hold that new book up again. I didn't even know about this book.
this is called Human Cicada, broski.
I'm
Human
getting that book.
Cicada. That's me. That's what they say.
Wow, that's great.
That picture was taken at the Botanic Garden spontaneously, snapped by my lady as we were touring the place in the year 2017. So we just used that for the cover.
Wow.
I hope you enjoyed. You get a clue of what we have in there. I have to tell you, it's still May, and if you go to Prickly Pear Press, Prickly Pear Press Publishing.com, you can order the book, and people will get a $2 discount to help with the cost of sending it to you wherever you are in these United States. And thank you. If you're just joining us today, ladies and gentlemen, the snow is still falling in Detroit. All right. Thank you.
Carlos Cumpian.
Órale, vato. All right. I'm gonna darken my screen for a second here
And you're gonna mute yourself.
and mute myself. Go ahead, do that.
All right. I wanted to mention, and I always forget this stuff, and I shouldn't. But helping sponsor this is an organization. I think you can see it over my shoulder there. The Detroit Writers Guild is an old organization. I mean, it's been around almost 50 years. And it started in Detroit, in the community, in the neighborhood, by Peggy Moore. It originally was the Black Detroit Writers Guild, and they changed it to the Detroit Writers Guild. And then I ended up being the director of it against my will, but it's been a pretty good ride for this stuff, doing these events. And also poets and writers out of New York. I always want to give them credit. They support everything that we do here greatly. So thank you guys for that. So next is Sharon Mesmer. Now she's from Chicago. I met her in Chicago. She was around Chicago, and then probably around 90 or so split for New York, or before
88.
that. Oh, you left. Okay.
88.
88, she left for New York. I started joining folks that I knew from Chicago in New York around 90. I let them settle for a minute. So Sharon Mesmer's most recent poetry collection, Greetings from Gurley Leisure Place, the Blue Books 2015. Oh, that's cool. It was voted best poetry by Entropy magazine. Other poetry collections are Annoying Diabetic.
Yeah, you got it.
I'm diabetic. Annoying Diabetic.
That's it.
Come on.
That's it.
The Virgin Formica, Half Angel, Half Lunch, and Vertigo Seeks Affinities chapbook from Belladonna. She's had four of her poems are in that postmodern anthology, which I use at Wayne State. Paul Hoover did that, didn't he? And that gang. She has also published 3 fiction collections, The Empty Quarter and An Ordinary Time, both from Hanging Loose Press. Bless Bob Hershon yeah, he's passed.
Yeah.
From Hatchet to French Translation. Her essays, reviews, and interviews appeared in New York Times, New York Magazine, The Cut, The Paris Review, American Poetry Review, Commonweal, which there was a great article in. I'm a subscriber, and the Brooklyn Rail. See, she's all Brooklyn. She's been all over the world. She's read at the Brussels International Poetry Festival, the Geneva Writers Workshop in Geneva, online during the Independent, the Princeton Graduate Colloquium Contemporary Series at Princeton, and many other things. I don't want to short shrift it, but there's so many things that she's been a part of. The Writers Union of Romania International Festival Colloquium in Neptune Beach, Romania. She teaches in the undergraduate program for New York University and the New School of Social Research. Live from sort of New York, Brooklyn and by way of Chicago, is Sharon Mesmer. Welcome.
Thank you so much. That was a great introduction. I always have problems with introductions, especially like if it's a friend of mine, because they'll give the other person like a 15-minute introduction, and then I'll come up and they'll go, here's Sharon. I left the introduction back at the office, but she's cool. So, thank you for that. I'm really appreciative of that. Thank you, M.L. Liebler, so much for this Carlos Cumpian, Cynthia Gallaher, me and you reading. This is just so fantastic. I'm just like listening to Cynthia and Carlos reading, and I just like feel like I'm sitting back at like the Randolph Street Gallery on like a really hot, Sunday afternoon, just like it is here. But it's just so good to hear their voices again, and to hear all of our Midwest accents again. I moved to New York in 1988 so I could lead an evil life, because I was too good in Chicago. So I wanted to be evil, so I came here. I'm not in New York today. We're actually in Pennsylvania where it's like 120 degrees. I don't know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read 6 poems. If I have time, I'll read a 7th, but I'm kind of going to go through some of the old books. Oh, Carlos, I miss you guys too. So I'm going to read 2 from the Virgin Formica, which was published by Hanging Loose. And yes, Bob Hirschon died last year. It's very sad. He was a great publisher. He published actually, how many books did I do from? I published 3 with Hanging Loose. And this is from the Virgin Formica, and it's called Just This. It came to me suddenly. 3 Dog Night were really great. And the revelation engendered a seizure that revealed the ephemerality of eternity. How Theseus in the labyrinth is everyone's predicament. How the milk of 3 ornery daughters spawned irony, and how every morning trails clouds of glory. But it was after midnight that things got interesting. In the low-ceilinged kitchen with the slop sink sweating and the door to the back garden open and us the only ones on the block still awake. The next day, a powerful wind whipped through Yankee Stadium. I saw it happen on television. And 8 minutes later, it arrived in Brooklyn to disturb the birds nesting in the air conditioner. Proof that everything is always beginning and becoming. To bring it into being means always deploying. Because the portal to the river of cordial closed in 1960, reducing me and all who came after me to a cowboy vulgarity, to fluidity on a wave of dissipation, but thus a deeper appreciation for the play of changing light and shadow on a window fan on a rainy day, and the certainty that the light we imagine we see with eyes half closed, squinting into trees, is the most beautiful anyone's ever seen. I believe I should like to decorate your life with a painted scale model of the Apollo 11 lunar module, and then bow out in a blaze of italics, anxious for exit, yet anxious to persist. And so I'll go erase the notes for this poem so that you'll believe it came to me on its own as just this. And this is another one from that book, and it's called What Becomes Us. People don't question wholesale bullshit like they used to. People don't break into song. People don't strike things from the record. Nobody joins the circus. Nobody orders Chinese takeout, opens a bottle of Chianti, and calls that a party. Who chews juicy fruit? Who swabs the decks of poop? Who still believes that every great love is in some measure a terrible mistake? Who still carries within their bodily frames the indelible stamp of their lowly origins? Do women bear stones now instead of children? Do people still see the significance of moonlight through a frosted skylight air shaft window, of Vaseline on stained glass? Do people still sit cross-legged on curbs fashioning mental movies of the stories of their lives? Does anyone burn with a hard jewel-like flame? Does anyone let all things happen, beauty and terror alike, unto them? Does anyone suddenly, in a private hour, in the middle of vacation, challenge the totality of existence with a figure of maternal endurance? Does the sensation of an insufficient lunch still prove worthy of poetry? Does anyone renounce their cake and eat it too? Where are the moral hedonists? Where is the noble purpose, the patient energy required for completion, the resolution undaunted by opposition? What is the consensus nowadays on becoming a grotesque mirror of one's own mother? Is the experience of puberty still an insult to any intelligent, sensitive person? Is nothingness still the ultimate simplicity? Is anyone out there becoming a hero or heroine or their own imagination? Is laughter still the best medicine? Are stern angels now unrequired to hear our pleas? Why are people overlooking expulsion and retention as important to the alchemical process? Why isn't anyone doing the blue corn dropsy under the flower moon or dancing like Spaniards with an ox? Why aren't they fucking in the furrows? Why aren't they celebrating the sunflower hour with a moment of duck blood soup? Has anyone ever thought of embracing the rugged industrialist of the secretarial sciences? And if not, why not? Does anyone ever get out of work early on a snowy day and look forward to going home and masturbating? No one sees the moon and then becomes the moon, and so the moon sadly becomes no one. People don't wear plastic bags directing traffic. Who's giving it away on 7th Avenue? Hello, hello? Is there anybody in there? Just nod if you can hear me. Is there anyone at home? Does anyone see the young, well-built excrement collector descending the mountain at dusk, reappearing shortly thereafter in a narrow street clogged by a shrine borne by boys, and finally gaining fame in the ranks of a family of Frankish tenors and Confucian tutors? No! That's because no one knows to kill the Buddha when they meet the Buddha. A yellow gorilla is often the voice of reason. And who among you can correctly answer the 7th riddle of existence? What is the nature and purpose of nature and purpose? That's a real curmudgeon poem. But I can read a poem like that because I'm 62 fucking years old. Oh, he says, no, I'm not. I'm close enough. Okay, I'll be 62. David says, I need my poetry juice. He's sitting over there heckling me. That's a Chicago thing. I taught him well, right? You're heckling me. Okay, so these are 2 poems from Greetings from My Girly Leisure Place, which was published by Bloof Books. Shanna Compton is the best publisher, I swear to God, in the whole world. Look at this beautiful book. Look at that. She really is a great publisher. This is called I Want to Expose Myself for Love of the People. I want to expose myself for love of the people. I want to expose myself and smile and cogitate quietly for love of the people. Extraordinary goals require extraordinary action. And so I want to expose myself in the grocery store, eating deli meats and cookies right off the shelves for love of the people. I don't want more opium than Thailand. I just love myself and the people so much that I want to be a better person and take pride in the things I do because I love me. And so I seek to expose myself for love of the people and me. I just flew in from Vegas where I exposed myself for love of the people. I wanted the people of Vegas to laugh, to cry, to hate, to love, to feel that life is about reading and sharing and gambling and exposing. And so I was exposing myself to girls who are in need and vulnerable. When a developing girl asked me, do you want to have the opportunity to expose yourself to some laundry? I had to answer, anything goes. Because I don't want to achieve immortality through my signature coffee-colored popovers. I want to achieve immortality through exposing myself. Invite me over. And one thing will lead to another. And then in the morning, if you die a painful death and I bury your body in the backyard and it's similar to the way Europeans love to smoke and I love smoking and you love traveling, then I will expose myself to a bus full of people stranded in traffic. I want to become a beacon for maintaining your dignity while exposing yourself for love of the people. I am not sure who my biological parents are, but I believe their goal was to become Pokemon masters and continue to get with baby squirrels. If Jesus has a pet baby squirrel and it jumps on me, Could I still expose myself for love of the people? I want Mexican nuns to be victims of my love. Also Oreos, diet. Okay, also Oreos, diet Dr. Pepper, and Cheetos, and Mother Teresa. Actually, I want to be Mother Teresa, victim of love, getting exposed to and exposing for the love of the people. If my poetry aims to achieve anything, it's to deliver people from the limited ways they expose themselves in grocery stores, in Vegas, Thailand, or Neverland for love of the people. I will write a poem later, but right now I am enjoying exposing myself as an intelligent, sensitive human with the soul of a clown, and not just any clown, but a clown deer who committed suicide after being banished from the forest after he was caught by other deer exposing himself during a fawn birthday party on the White House lawn for the love of the people and deer. Okay, how am I doing? Let's see. Okay, I guess I'll read two more poems. I am currently working on a poetry anthology. I'm like talking in, what am I saying? I'm currently working on a poetry collection, not an anthology, but maybe I will. A poetry collection that is dedicated to underknown women poets of the Americas. And I was really glad that Carlos brought up the underknown composer, because this is a poetry collection where I have like researched these women, and I've incorporated some of their ideas and some of their life information into these poems. It's 25 women poets who are underknown to maybe not to us poets, but to the general. Included in this collection are two poets that you all Chicagoans probably know of, Lori Jackson and Lydia Tomkew, who was my best friend. So I'm going to read the poem that I wrote for Lori, and I'm going to read a poem that I wrote for Violeta Parra, who was a Chilean poet, brilliant, brilliant poet. I knew of her brother Nicanor Parra through Allen Ginsberg, but I never knew of her. So I'm going to read these two poems, and then I'll call it a day and start drinking. Think I'm kidding. You think I'm kidding? See what's right here? I don't kid around, people. Okay, so this is not funny. These are not funny poems, but this is called Privates of the Popular Apocalypse, and it's after Lori Jackson, United States, 1962 to 1990. I didn't die young enough, but I am coiffed and wired on broken linoleum. Your finger seating me like dragon teeth, my clavicle bruised in freight yard dusk, a parenthesis of grease on the ceiling of the Y. So what if it's true? The clavicle is the body's only long horizontal bone. And the stuff a young girl does to make a man a hero cuts a low, keening moan amid the moon and ablutions. But hey, weren't we discussing linoleum, the ceiling of the Y, bald, bright July? And would it hurt to fall asleep as the coach house smolders, my face all twisted, but recognizably me? And this is my last one, and it's for Violeta Parra. And if you've never read the work of these poets, they're really amazing. My collection is called Even Living Makes Me Die. And the line comes from a poem by a Uruguayan poet named Delmira Agustini. All of these women were way ahead of their time. And their poetry is just wonderful. And I hope when it comes out, and it will come out, that you'll check out some of these poets. And this is My Supper Once Had a Song Inside, after Violeta Parra, Chile, 1917 to 1967, with a last line by Hakuin. My supper once had a song inside. The song was the world before the sweet gum trees. The trees were hidden inside the earth inside an alphabet. My meat was sweet gum and maple rain. The maple rain, the alphabet inside the earth, an ancient lamp still burning in an urn, the urn, a moon of corn, a fleet of deer. I never wondered, will there always be a song inside supper? Was there always a place like this? A place with a sweet gum tree at the beginning of everything, a moon of corn, a fleet of deer. We were all small animals then. Our supper's the meat of sweet gum. To grow tall, we were told to bind rain with stones, to burn sweet gum to ash for a spell, to become lush, elemental with frank allure, to think only of growing and forgetting. Now my supper is rain on the windowsills, my meat an alphabet of wet cement. A fleet of bikes crashes past. I feel my way toward them with my tongue. And I wonder, is there still a song inside supper, still a world burning in an urn? If there is still an alphabet, there must be an earth and sweet gum meat inside the coal and ash. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you. Cheers.
Sharon Mesmer. Gosh, we got to look these books. I know I have some of the short fiction things, books and others, but yeah, I think everybody ought to check you out. I think they will.
Everybody needs to check me out.
Check her out, man.
Check me out.
Wow, that's great. That's good. Okay, I'm just going to finish with a couple of poems. I appreciate Sharon and Carlos and Cynthia for coming out. Again, thank Poets and Writers and the Detroit Writers Guild for that, for helping sponsor this. Let's see, what else is there? Is there anything else? I'm just going to read, you guys have made me think of so many poems I could just riff off of what you guys were doing, starting with Cynthia and her Elvis thing. You know, I'm finishing my memoir, which is all kind of tied in with music. And the first chapter is Elvis, and then the second chapter is Beatles, and it goes on. And then there's some people you're not as familiar with. In there's an Al Cooper chapter and a Peter Lewis one. But anyway, but Elvis is the main thing. I mean, Elvis is where it started with me. And so I'm going to try to do this from memory. I don't know my own poems, but this one's pretty short. So it's called Rock and Roll. I've thought about the many nights of rock and roll I've spent in my youth, hardcore. My grandma taught me how to rock. She hummed Elvis while she hemmed my pants. She liked Elvis. She liked him so much that she bought me a black leather jacket with a motorcycle hat like Marlon Brando's that really pissed Mrs. Taylor off. She kicked me out of the first grade. She said I'd be a bad influence on all the other kids. I didn't like those snotty-nosed kids anyway. They couldn't rock like grandma. So that's rock and roll. That's an old poem. All right, I'm pulling up. This is a new poem. It's called The Strangeness of the Self in Bloom. Sitting in my backyard in the Midwest, I dream of a new world. Raindrops upon fresh green leaves, finches new in their nest, the rose bushes from winter coming back alive in the pink fragrance of their leafy petals. I am talking to the occasional cloud shadow, creation shadows on my lawn. I lay back and whisper myself back to life. I can no longer climb the mountain of my past. I can only move forward. Someday, I hope to be reborn again in glory and love. But until then, I sit, dream, and will awaken when I am called. This is a poem called Wisdom, short little poem. Wisdom, the days are full. Wisdom is not sacred. There's plenty around if one looks further than himself. The days are full of ideas if we can just put our finger on any one of them. But we struggle, fish out of water, thinking without remembering and missing out every time. And this is, I did this anthology, poets writing about Detroit music. This was one of my collection or entries in the book. Michigan State did it. This is called Rhythm and Blues Fire. And it's for the Falcons, who were a great group on Fortune Records. And in the Falcons, there were some significant singers. For a minute, Wilson Pickett was in it. Eddie Floyd was in it. And a guy who I became friends with, and he wrote Mustang Sally and all that, Sir Mac Rice was in it. So I wrote this poem for them. Really, really like their stuff. Rhythm and Blues Fire. Tonight, gasoline pours, creating a fire of rhythm and blues, igniting an engine of sweet soul dreams, warm, dark, purple, late summer night songs that respect themselves, hot harmonies on an east side Detroit street, falcons singing in the front room, and across the street, a young boy hears their call and response. It's a new church. It's Detroit. It's late 1959, and it's all our good fortune to have new hymns from our northern souls. I'm going to do this one. It's good to have. This is I don't know if it can even be seen, but this is the more recent little selected poem thing that came out. So this is no shirt, no shoes, no vax, no service. No shirt, no shoes, no service. Screw that. It infringes on my right to wear my red Speedo into a Target store. No drinking and driving. Screw that. It infringes on my right to be drunk while it's trundling to grandma's. No smoking in the bar. Screw that. It infringes on my right to get lung cancer or whatever disease I want. No littering. Screw that. It infringes on my rights to throw crap out my car window on the freeway. No dogs in the park. Screw that. It infringes on my rights to be with man's best friend who likes to crap on other people's lawns. No public urinating. Screw that. It infringes on my right to liberate my bladder anywhere I want. No honking in hospital zones. Screw that. It infringes on my right to toot my horn wherever I want. No parking handicap zone. Screw that. It infringes on my right to feel handicapped if I want to get a closer parking spot. No spitting. Screw that. It infringes on my rights to release liquid from my mouth anywhere I friggin' want. No guns on campus. What the hell? Screw that. It infringes on my right to threaten a bad teacher. Taxes? Screw them. It infringes on my right to keep my money to spend at the casino. No stealing. Oh man, screw that. It infringes on my right to grab free shit whenever I want. No pumping gas and driving off. What the hell? That infringes on my right to drive my car with a full tank. No fault insurance. Oh my God. It infringes on my right to cause an accident and flee freely. Curb my dog. Oh, hell no. It infringes on my right to shit wherever he wants. Do not enter. Screw that one too. Why are you keeping me and other people from going in? And this, I'll do this is my last poem here. I'm just looking at these newer poems. That I have here. All right, I'll end with this one. And again, thank you guys for watching, and for Sharon, Carlos, and Cynthia to come on out and be forever preserved on video and for the world to see. The orange leaves of evensong. The black moon sleeps alone, humbled in ancient darkness, a primitive shadow cast upon a sacred gentle breeze over the orange leaves of evensong. As twilight turns into a human shape, a bright bone white star is created to offer quietness and solitude, illuminating the loneliness of ourselves. Somewhere in another universe, a new morning welcomes the warm sun rising slowly to nourish our hungry souls and feed all eternity with blessings and hope. Each night in the late yawn of darkness, we offer a simple prayer to all who we once were, and we crawl slowly forward in quiet desperation, always moving with vigilance towards freedom and light. So that's my contribution for today.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you. Once again, check out the people, look at their work, especially if they're new to you today. Sharon Mesmer is, her books are out there and available. Fiction, short fiction, poetry. And watch for her nonfiction writing, creative nonfiction writing in Commonweal and elsewhere. Carlos Cumpian, he's got a new book. Who knew? I didn't even know this. I gotta go get this right now. I'm ordering. Let me just do this while I'm closing out here.
Yeah, right.
I'm getting, and
That's playing, bro.
it's fabulous.
Yeah.
So, and then Cynthia, who's always writing books of poetry and her nonfiction book, The Frugal Poet. It's a great little book. It's got good ideas. It's creatively written. It's pretty fun. So, thank you guys. Thanks to poets and
Thank you
writers,
for having us.
and to everybody who is here and out
Right.
in Facebook land. And I got a couple of quick things. June 15th. Sharon actually is going to come back and read a poem. She's in this anthology called New York City from the Inside, or NYC from the Inside.
If it's okay with George, because I
Oh.
already read.
That's all right. That's all right. We got a good lineup. It's Sharon will read her poem, her piece that's in it. Eleni Silkolanos will be coming to us live from Greece. Alicia Ostreicher live from the Upper West Side. And there, who else is there? There's all kinds of people. Myself, George Wallace, the editor of this great book. It's a pretty cool book. It's got a lot of interesting poets. Eddie Hirsch is going to join in. So they're all poets that have Detroit connections with me. But that's the 15th. And if Charlie, if you guys want to, any of you want to fly to Detroit, I'm going to be in the St. Clair Shores Memorial Day Parade, doing my Beatles show down Harper in St. Clair Shores. So that's next Sunday at 1:00. I'll be on a float, or I'll be floating. Thanks, everybody. We'll see.
Stay close to the Church of Poetry.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I hear you.
Amen.
Thanks, everyone. Love you.
All right.
All right. Great show.
Bye bye.
All right. Ciao.